The chandeliers inside the private rooftop restaurant shimmered like liquid diamonds, reflecting off crystal glasses and polished marble floors. It was the kind of place where billion-dollar deals were whispered over wine, where power wore designer suits and confidence cost more than rent in most neighborhoods. And tonight, sitting near the glass balcony overlooking the city skyline, was Victoria Hale, the youngest CEO in the history of Hale Global Technologies. At just 32, Victoria had built an empire. She was ruthless in negotiations, feared in boardrooms, admired on magazine covers, and untouchable in society columns. Her assistant had insisted she try something normal for once. A blind date, a break from billionaires and politicians, a chance to meet someone real. Victoria adjusted her silk dress and checked her reflection in her phone's camera. "Please don't let this be a disaster," she muttered. When the restaurant doors opened, she barely looked up until she heard the hostess say, "Sir, this way." She lifted her eyes and blinked. He wasn't what she expected. No tailored suit, no Rolex, no elegant posture. Instead, a tall man in a simple navy button-up shirt, sleeves slightly rolled, revealing forearms marked by old scars. He walked with quiet confidence but no flash. His hair was slightly tousled, like he didn't care about impressing anyone. He looked around, spotted her, and gave a small, warm smile. He looked normal, too normal. He approached the table. "Victoria." She nodded, forcing a polite smile. "And you must be Daniel." "Daniel Carter," he said gently. "Sorry if I'm a few minutes late. My daughter had a school project meltdown." Victoria's eyebrow lifted. "You have a daughter?" "8 years old. Emma. She's my whole world." Victoria let out a soft, amused laugh. Not cruel, but definitely amused. A single dad. Of course her assistant would set her up with someone grounded. She imagined board members fainting if they saw her here. "So," she said, swirling her wine. "What do you do, Daniel?" "I run a small security consulting firm," he replied calmly. She nearly smiled again. "Small security firm. Of course. That sounds modest." He didn't react, just nodded. "It pays the bills and keeps life interesting." Victoria leaned back. "Interesting how?" Daniel's eyes held something for a second. Something deeper. Something experienced. "Let's just say I've had a previous career that taught me how to stay calm in bad situations." She barely registered it. The dinner went on. He was polite, intelligent, thoughtful, too thoughtful. He asked about her work. Not in awe, not impressed, just genuinely curious. It irritated her slightly. Most men either worshipped her or feared her. Daniel did neither. Halfway through dinner, she checked her phone as 3 board notifications buzzed in. Daniel noticed. "Work emergency? There's always one," she sighed. "When you're responsible for 40,000 employees across 3 continents, dinner is rarely just dinner." He studied her face carefully. "That sounds exhausting." "It's called ambition. It's also called pressure." She smirked. "You wouldn't understand." That was the first time something changed in his expression. Not anger, not offense, just a subtle shift. "You'd be surprised what I understand." Before she could respond, the sound of raised voices echoed near the entrance. Commotion. Victoria frowned. 3 men entered quickly, not dressed like diners, not acting like staff. Daniel noticed before anyone else did. His posture changed instantly. Relaxed single dad vanished. His back straightened. His eyes sharpened. Every movement became calculated. The first gunshot shattered the air. Screams erupted. Glass exploded. Victoria froze. Her mind couldn't process it. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not here. Not to her. The armed men shouted orders, forcing guests to the ground. Daniel leaned toward her, voice suddenly low and commanding. Listen to me carefully. When I say move, you follow exactly. No hesitation. Do you understand? Her heart pounded violently. What's happening? Robbery. Possibly targeted. Stay calm. How do you know that? But he was already scanning exits, counting threats, analyzing angles. One of the gunmen shouted, "Where's Victoria Hale?" The room went silent. Her blood ran cold. Daniel's eyes flicked to her. So it wasn't random. They grabbed her arm. There she is. Before she could scream, Daniel moved. Fast. Faster than she thought humanly possible. He flipped the table with explosive force, sending plates and glass crashing into the attackers. In one fluid motion, he disarmed the nearest gunman, twisting his wrist until the weapon dropped. He pivoted, delivering a precise strike to another's throat. It wasn't messy. It was controlled, trained, deadly efficient. Victoria stared in disbelief as the small security consultant transformed into something else entirely. The third gunman aimed at her. Daniel stepped in front of her without hesitation. The shot fired. Daniel grabbed a fallen chair, deflecting the attacker's aim just enough. The bullet grazed his shoulder instead of his chest. He didn't flinch. Within seconds, two attackers were unconscious. The third tried to run, but Daniel tackled him before he reached the stairs. Silence returned, broken only by sirens approaching. Victoria was shaking. Daniel stood, breathing heavily but steady. Blood slowly seeped through his sleeve. "You're bleeding," she whispered. "It's nothing." Police stormed in, weapons raised. One officer froze when he saw Daniel. "Carter." Daniel gave a tired nod. The officer's eyes widened. "Former Special Forces?" Victoria's head snapped toward him. The officer continued, "Decorated combat specialist. Counter-terror rescue operations." The world tilted. Victoria looked at Daniel like she'd never seen him before. "You said small security firm." He gave a small half-smile. "It is." The officer chuckled. "Ma'am, if he hadn't been here tonight, this would have been a massacre." Victoria couldn't speak. Hours later, outside under flashing blue lights, she approached him quietly. "You risked your life for me." He shrugged gently. "You were my date. That's not funny." "No," he said softly. "It's not." She looked at him, really looked at him. Not his clothes, not his status, but his steadiness, his courage, his lack of ego. "I laughed at you," she admitted. "You didn't know. That's the point. I judged you." He met her gaze. "Most people do." There was no bitterness in his voice, just truth. An ambulance paramedic approached to treat his shoulder. Victoria felt something unfamiliar rising inside her. Respect. And something deeper. "You saved my life," she whispered. Daniel smiled faintly. "Just another interesting night. But this story is just beginning, because the attack wasn't random. And the people who wanted Victoria gone, they weren't done. The city skyline looked different after you've almost died." Victoria Hale stood inside the floor-to-ceiling glass office of Hale Global Technologies at 2:17 a.m., staring at the glittering lights below. Normally, those lights meant dominance, control, ownership. Tonight, they felt fragile. 3 armed men had stormed a private rooftop restaurant and called her name. Not random, not robbery, targeted. Behind her, the office door opened quietly. Daniel Carter stepped inside. His shoulder was bandaged, but he moved like the injury didn't exist. Calm, alert, focused. Victoria didn't turn around. "You shouldn't be here. You need rest." "I've slept in worse conditions." he replied evenly. Besides, whoever sent those men isn't finished. She finally faced him. Board members had begged her to go home with a security convoy. Her head of legal demanded statements. PR wanted damage control. But the only person she trusted in that moment was the man she had laughed at 3 hours earlier. How did you know it was targeted? She asked. Daniel walked to the window, scanning the streets below automatically. Always assessing. Always calculating. They asked for you by name. They didn't start shooting randomly. They were looking for leverage. Probably kidnapping. When that failed, elimination becomes plan B. Her throat tightened. Elimination. You've stepped on someone powerful. I step on powerful people for breakfast. He looked at her carefully. Then one of them decided to bite back. Silence filled the office. Victoria had built her empire by acquiring companies aggressively, cutting corrupt partnerships, exposing financial fraud. She had made enemies, but she had never felt afraid before. Tonight, fear felt real. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Daniel's eyes sharpened instantly. Put it on speaker. She hesitated, then answered. A distorted voice filled the room. Miss Hale, you survived. Impressive. Her blood ran cold. Daniel gave her a small nod to stay calm. You're making a mistake, Victoria said firmly. You have no idea what you've just done. A soft chuckle echoed. Oh, we know exactly what we're doing. You cost us billions when you terminated the Virex Systems merger. Daniel's expression shifted slightly. Virex Systems. A defense tech contractor recently cut from Hale Global due to ethical inconsistencies. Victoria's voice hardened. You were selling military software to black market buyers. And you exposed us. The voice grew darker. Tonight was a warning. Next time, there will be no former Special Forces hero conveniently seated beside you. The line went dead. The room felt smaller. Victoria lowered the phone slowly. Daniel exhaled through his nose. Virex isn't just corrupt. They're dangerous. You know them. I've seen their work overseas. She stared at him. Why didn't you tell me who you really were tonight? He met her gaze steadily. You didn't ask. That's not fair. No, he said softly. It isn't. Before she could respond, the lights flickered. Once, twice, then darkness. Complete blackout. Emergency red lights flashed faintly. Victoria's breath hitched. That's impossible. We have triple redundant power systems. Daniel moved instantly, grabbing her wrist. Stay behind me. A loud crash echoed from the hallway. Glass shattering. Metal scraping. They're inside the building, he said calmly. How? Corporate access codes. Inside help. Her heart pounded violently. Betrayal from within. Footsteps approached outside the office. Heavy. Purposeful. Daniel scanned the room quickly, spotting a decorative metal sculpture on a pedestal. He handed her a letter opener from her desk. If someone gets past me, aim for the throat or eyes. No hesitación. Her hands trembled. I've never. You can. You're stronger than you think. The office door burst open. 2 armed men. Night vision goggles. Silenced weapons. Professional. Daniel moved like lightning. He threw the sculpture with deadly precision, smashing one attacker's wrist before the trigger could be pulled. In the same breath, he lunged forward, using momentum to slam the second into the glass wall. Victoria watched in stunned disbelief. Every move he made was surgical, controlled violence. He used the attacker's own weapon against him, disarming with a twist and precise elbow strike. Within seconds, both men were down. But Daniel didn't relax. More are coming. As if on cue, gunfire erupted from down the corridor. Security alarms wailed. Victoria's entire building had become a battlefield. Daniel grabbed her hand. We can't hold this floor. Is there a secure panic room? Yes. Basement level. Good. Move. They ran through emergency-lit corridors as distant gunshots echoed. Victoria stumbled once. Daniel steadied her without breaking stride. When they reached the elevator, Daniel pulled her back. Too obvious. Stairs. They descended quickly. Halfway down, footsteps thundered from below. Daniel cursed under his breath. Trapped between two teams. He looked at her intensely. When I say run, you run down and don't stop. Do not look back. What about you? I'll handle it. Her chest tightened. You're injured. I've had worse. Gunmen appeared above. Daniel pushed her downward. Go! She ran. For the first time in her life, Victoria Hale wasn't in control. Behind her, the stairwell erupted into chaos. Thuds, grunts, gunshots. She reached the basement-level door, heart pounding violently. But it was locked by biometric scan. Her hands shook as she pressed her palm to the panel. Access denied. What? She gasped. Then she saw it. The scanner had been smashed. Inside job confirmed. Footsteps approached from behind. Not Daniel. Heavy. Multiple. Her breathing became shallow.